For the past 4.5 decades, the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagen, or better known as the G-Wagen, has constantly been the go-to vehicle of choice for high-profile individuals looking to drive around in a vehicle that makes a statement. In fact, if you're looking to buy one of the most off-road capable vehicles in the world, the G-Wagen has basically always fit that persona. Now, about 6 years ago, Mercedes-Benz introduced an all-new second generation, and even though it didn't look like it on the outside, this was a comprehensive redesign that finally brought the G-Wagen into the modern era. Now, of course, for 2025, it's time for the G-Wagen to get its first significant update, and this is pretty much just short of a full redesign because what you're looking at here is the first ever fully electric G-Wagen. It's called the G580 with EQ technology and with a big 116 kilowatt-hour battery pack, 4 electric motors, and the most torque that Mercedes-Benz has ever put in a G-Wagen. This is certainly going to live up to the lofty expectations that you expect with this nameplate. So as you can see, this week we are driving around in the 2025 G580 with EQ technology. And the big question I would answer, does the all-electric G-Wagen have what it takes to fit the bill and the lofty expectations that you expect with the G-Wagen name? Stay tuned to find out. So I have been waiting quite a long time to finally get a G-Wagen for a full week to test so I can show you guys a more comprehensive review versus when I tested this vehicle like 6 years ago. But before we start talking about the exterior styling of the electric G-Wagen, let me go ahead and first pop the hood and show you guys if this vehicle has a front trunk. Now, as I expected, because this is not built off of a bespoke EV architecture, there is no front trunk, but let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs. Now, as you can see underneath the hood, you're just gonna find a big plastic cover here, but if you look underneath the cover, which I'm not gonna remove, you'll actually be able to see some of the electric motor componentry. And what's interesting about the G580 is the fact that this vehicle is a quad motor EV. It's a very rare quad motor EV. The only other ones I can think of are the Rivian R1S and R1T. And all the G580s, which are essentially slotted between the 550 and the 63 AMG, have the 4 individual electric motors at each of those wheels. The power output figures are pretty impressive. 579 horsepower and 859 pound-feet of torque. This actually has more horsepower and torque versus the G63 AMG, although technically it's not the most powerful G-Wagen Mercedes has ever done. That distinction belongs to the G65 from the previous gen, which had a twin-turbo V12. Now, because it's got 4 motors, of course, it has standard all-wheel drive. Mercedes actually calls it individual all-wheel drive. And the interesting twist about this car is it actually has a 2-speed automatic transmission, and there's actually 4 2-speed automatic transmissions in each of the actual electric motors. They draw their power from a 116 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which is good for up to 239 miles of range per the EPA. Mercedes-Benz claims this model is good for 0 to 60 in around 4.6 seconds. Top speed should be around 112 miles an hour. And the downside with the electric G is this vehicle is not rated to tow, which is a shame because the gas-powered models can tow up to 7,000 pounds. This one, again, is not rated by Mercedes-Benz. Because of the big battery pack, this vehicle is over 1,000 pounds heavier than its gas counterparts, weighing in at just under 7,000 pounds, which is definitely pretty heavy, but not the heaviest EV that I've ever tested. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. Now, that sound that you heard is basically a satisfying clunk that you're gonna hear from all of the doors and the rear door for this vehicle whenever you shut them. My particular test car is painted in a manufacturer night blue metallic, or actually it's a non-metallic paint. This is technically a $6,500 upcharge for the paint. And I have to say, in the sunlight, it certainly has a really nice, beautiful hue to it, but I don't like how it doesn't have any metallic flecks or sparkles. It's kind of a boring color. Mercedes offers so many different colors for $6,500. I would skip this one and get something a lot brighter like the China blue. You can see it has the signature frog eye headlight or turn signals that you find mounted on the upper portion of the fender. The front fascia you can see has the signature oval or round LED headlights, which have the LED light signature, of course, the LED turn signals at the top. The G580 has a unique front fascia that has been aerodynamically optimized. You can see the grille has just these 2 individual slots in it because it doesn't require the additional cooling. You have the illuminated outline of the grille that kind of matches nicely with the LED daytime running light. Of course, you have the double star logo with the Mercedes badge there, the big Mercedes badge over here. The front bumper also has been smoothed out for optimized aerodynamics. The front camera actually is mounted down low as opposed to in the actual Mercedes star. And This is the only G-Wagon that doesn't come standard with a brush guard at the front. If you guys remember, the G550 has the brush guard at the front that's covering the headlights, while the G63 has it in the lower bumper. You're also going to be able to tell this is the electric model from the black accents that you get for the front fascia. This is an optional extra. They kind of contrast nicely with the dark blue. Again, those are your only clues that this is the fully electric model, so kind of keep that in mind. Now, moving around the side profile, the G580 is basically built on a bespoke body-on-frame architecture. So they basically modified the frame to accommodate that 116 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and as a result, this vehicle is about the same dimensionally, with a 113.8-inch wheelbase with a 190-inch overall length. Keep in mind, my test car has the optional spare tire on the back. Without it, it actually shrinks the overall length to 182, which is the shortest among the G-Wagon family. I'll talk about why in just a moment. I love the full paint finish that you find here. Of course, Mercedes offers so many different styles where you can get these black painted or unpainted if you'd prefer. You can see there's a marker light here that's amber, along with this kind of line that goes across the side. It has that classic G-Wagon look. And then my test car, you can see, has the standard 20-inch aerodynamically optimized wheel. You can also get this in an all black finish. They're riding on a 275 by 50 R20. It's like a Falcon all-season tire. The brake rotors are 14 inches in the front and the rear, and this vehicle comes with an independent front suspension with adaptive dampers. The rear is actually a solid axle. This generation introduced an actual rack and pinion electric power steering system, which was a big change, of course, from the previous generation. The downside with the G-Wagon is, unlike some competitors from Land Rover, this vehicle has fixed ground clearance around 9.8 inches on this model. It's 0.3 inches more than the regular G550. And as a result, because it's electric, this vehicle can ford up to 33.5 inches of water, around 6 inches more versus the gas-powered model. As you can see, with the night package that my test car has, you have these black painted side mirrors, which are power folding, integrated turn signals, full 360 camera. There's a small little EQ badge here to let everybody know you have the electric model. You can see that running board is going to be standard, which is nicely integrated into the side sill. You can also black that out if you prefer. And then you can also get a black roof. The sunroof, as you can see, is just a standard size sunroof. It's standard equipment. And Mercedes says they've optimized the aerodynamics for the roof for this vehicle. That's going to help it slip through the air a little bit better, but this is still a rolling brick, so don't expect it to be, I guess, a really aerodynamically optimized vehicle. And then backing away from the car here, you can see it just has that classic G-Wagon look. I love the size, and I want to mention that my test car has the spare wheel on the back. That adds an extra 6 inches or 8 inches to the length. Without it, you'll have like a square holder at the back that basically holds the charge cable. That's an extra $1,200 that my test car has. And as you can see behind this door here, you're going to find the charge port. Now, Mercedes still ships this vehicle with the J1772 with the CCS combo. Eventually, I believe they will adapt the NACS plug, but you can buy the adapter from Mercedes. This vehicle runs on the 400-volt architecture. It'll accept up to 200 kilowatts on a DC fast charger, which allows you to go from 10 to 80% in about 32 minutes. It has a relatively slow 9.6 kilowatt onboard level 2 charger. It'll take about 13 hours to charge at home on a level 2 from 0 to 100%. Like I said earlier, around 239 miles of range. We'll talk about that later on. My test car also has this option here for the matte black painted door handles with this interesting little button that you press to actually get inside the vehicle. You can see it has the G logo there, and then when you shut the door, it has that trademark sound that I personally love. It's the best door sound or slam funk in the industry. You can see this vent here is actually functional. It's to allow the air pressure inside the cabin to escape, so it keeps your windows from busting. That's always been a G-Wagon trademark. And then looking at the rear, you can see the design is basically unchanged from the refresh model, and you can't really tell this is the electric version, aside from the fact that, you know, my test car has that optional spare wheel, which is standard on the regular G-Wagon. That square one that's standard on the electric is the only indication. You can see the taillights are full LED. They are an evolutionary change versus the previous generation, which were incandescents. You can see the rear bumper is nice and smooth. Obviously no exhaust tips. You're gonna find side exit exhaust on the AMG version, but nothing, of course, on the electric model. Your backup camera is located down here by the license plate holder, which is kind of, I think, the wrong position, because it basically means you need to watch this right here, because this extends out the rear of the vehicle by like an extra 8 inches. So when you're backing up, make sure you're taking that into account to keep your spare wheel from hitting something whenever you're backing up your G-Wagon. You can see the rear window is blocked slightly, of course, by this spare wheel, but you do have a rear window wiper, your reverse third brake light at the top. There's a G580 badge here to let everybody know that this is a unique model that slots between the G550 and G63. And then, of course, the signature thing here is the side opening back door, which I am surprised to see the Mercedes doesn't even offer like a power opening and closing back door, considering the price of this vehicle. But this has always been like a classic theme here. You can see there's beautiful real leather stitched back here with the carpeting that you can see. The opening is quite large. I also appreciate how the hinges is actually on the right side. If you have this vehicle parallel parked, you can get stuff in here pretty easily. And then the downside with the electric G-Wagon is you do have less cargo capacity. Mercedes-Benz says you have around 34 cubic feet, which is a reduction of about 4 cubic feet compared to the gas-only version. You can see this is your mobile charger that's included. This area here looks like it's been compromised to accommodate the battery pack. It's also not a flat floor. There's a hump there. You do have a cargo cover, of course. I love the boxy profile. In fact, the vehicle itself for this generation got 4 inches wider, and it really shows in the interior space, and you also have all that space to the roof. If you fold down those seats, which requires a 2-step process, Mercedes doesn't quote the actual number. The previous generation offered around 68 cubic feet, but again, it doesn't have a completely flat floor, which is a compromise that you have to make by going with the electric model. Now moving on to the interior of this G580 with EQ technology. The first thing I want to show you guys is the key fob. As you can see, this is Mercedes' latest intelligent access key, which includes a few buttons here, although it doesn't have all the buttons that you'd expect, because remember, this vehicle does not have a power lift gate for its swing out gate. So you just have lock, unlock, and then a panic feature, just 3 buttons actually. And there's also no kind of indication that this is a G-Wagon on the key fob itself. So I think the key could be a little bit more special. At least it feels rather hefty. It feels like a premium key when you are holding it. Now, as you approach the door handle, as you can see, my test car for an extra $700 has like these matte black finish door handles with this G letter actually in the push button here. And what Mercedes added this year is finally keyless access. So I can just touch that area there. That will lock the doors. It'll also power fold the mirrors in. The horn on this vehicle is incredibly loud. And then when you want to unlock the door, just touch the back of the door handle, and you have to wait a second for it to unlock. But I love that. Listen to that sound. I love that sound. That is a classic G-Wagon thing here. So they kind of preserve that. As I open the door, push that in, you can just hear the sound of that. Just listen. I love that sound. You also have to slam the door. It's a trademark G-Wagon thing that owners really love. So love the fact that Mercedes has kept that even for the electric model. Now looking at the interior, as you can see, my test car has the optional Interior Plus package for $8,000 extra. It includes the manufacturer upgraded leather that you get. This is in the espresso brown with the black interior two-tone. You can see it has diamond quilted stitching, contrast stitching. These seats are heated and ventilated, and they also offer a massage function with 3-person memory on the driver and on the front passenger side. These seats also have adjustable bolsters. I think they adjust in like 20 different ways. They are so comfortable and supportive, great on longer trips. And the leather also feels pretty high quality. I just personally would have gone for a brighter interior color. There's so many different interior color options, just like the outside. You really have to go to the Mercedes build site to see all the different interior color options. My test car also has the 2-tone Napa leather wheel, which has a brown and a black leather wheel, which looks really nice. And you can see with the $8,000 extra, you get real leather stitching for the upper door panels. Cross stitching over here, real metal trim. I don't love the piano black plastic here, as it shows a lot of fingerprints and scratches. This is the included aluminum weave trim. You can also get wood or carbon fiber, and the leather extends to the lower door panel as well. This area is the only hard touch plastic area. The door handles, you can see traditional metal accented door handles, and then you can see there's the upgraded Burmester sound system, which is standard basically on every G-Wagon. It better be considering the price point of this vehicle. I also like the alloy pedals that are included. This little side step here is also nice looking. It kind of helps you get in, but at the same time, what this vehicle is lacking is any grab handles. So with the lack of grab handles, I basically have to use the steering wheel to hoist a short person like myself into the vehicle. But once you get inside, you can really see the climb is high with nearly 10 inches of ground clearance, but it gives you a commanding view of the road. And then of course, shutting the door, that is the best door thunk that you'll hear in the industry. So this is basically why I talk about door solid sounding thunks, because the G-Wagons has the best sounding door in the industry. But starting the vehicle up, you can see start stop button hasn't moved. It's in the same location as other G-Wagons. Push that, you can hear it has the EQ noises along with the traditional startup chime, but because this is electric, there's no engine that starts up, sadly. And that's kind of where it might annoy a lot of G-Wagon owners, because you love hearing that side pipe exhaust V8, which has amazing sounds. This obviously just says ready in the instrument cluster. It shows, you know,
their latest infotainment system, and it will turn buyers off initially. So that's probably one of the reasons why people aren't so in love, the traditionalists, the purists aren't so in love with this car. Now, you can see for this generation, or for this updated model, Mercedes gave it their latest steering wheel with the annoying touch-sensitive controls. I hate all the piano black plastic here. It just shows fingerprints and smudges, but I do like the thick rim. It has really high quality feeling leather. The wheel itself has a power tilt telescoping feature, and it's relatively easy to get a comfortable driving position in this vehicle, which is nice. No heads-up display on this vehicle is available, but you do have the instrument panel, which is kind of right there in your line of sight, and then it has their latest MBUX system, which has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Finally, they added that for this generation, and I also appreciate how it's not their ridiculous super screen or hyper screen function. You can see the leather from the door panel carries over onto the dash with the aluminum speaker covers, of course. You have the metal weave trim here and here, more of the aluminum and real leather, of course, on the dash. This is also aluminum. I love the vents. They have a satisfying click to them when you want to adjust the airflow, and they're manual, which I really love. Along with the toggles here, they just have a nice satisfying click feel to them when you start using them. And as opposed to the triple lockers that you have in the gas models, instead you have 3 buttons here for the low range. That's right, this vehicle is an electric vehicle, but it has a low range function, which is kind of cool. And then you also have their turn assist feature, where you can basically push that'll turn the vehicle, called the G-turn functionality. This function allows off-road turns in small spaces by means of counter-rotating the wheels. Please note the driver display. It actually is only available in low range mode, so you have to put it into low range first, and low range is only accessed in rock mode. So that's something that you have to kind of get used to. The fact is that this is an EV with low range. Again, I'm not going to demonstrate this here, but hopefully later on in the video I can demonstrate it later. You cannot be on like asphalt, because it's very, it's going to produce a lot of noise. It's also very hard on the tires, so kind of keep that in mind. This other feature is like their trail turn assist, where it'll basically lock the rear wheels and drag them so you can actually turn a little bit better. But it's kind of nice that they offer those features. This is an off-road button here that takes you to the off-road pages, of course, which is really nice information. And then you also have your 360 camera button here, or it's like your off-road camera, of course. And then you have your stability control off switch. When I put the vehicle into reverse, there's your backup camera, which also includes a 360 camera, although for some reason I'm not seeing it populate here in the surroundings. Maybe it's the fact that there's something not available when recording. Not sure why it's not pulling up the 360 camera there. It's probably because I'm in the off-road pages there, but I'll see if I can try to pull that up later on. Put that in reverse again. There's your full 360 camera, of course, where it kind of gives you a trajectory perimeter scan, and the quality and the resolution is very good, although it doesn't quite give you all the same features. Actually, there you go. You can do a full 360 perimeter scan. It's not the same color vehicle that I'm driving in the actual display here, but this is still very impressive stuff. The screen is starting to look a little small, but again, this is a G-Wagon. It still has a very impressive technology, and of course, their latest software with MBUX. So I can do things like, hey Mercedes, how may I help you? Turn on driver's seat massage. I'm switching on the massage on the driver's seat. So the virtual assistant that this car comes with, for the most part, works pretty well. And although I'm surprised it didn't work the first time I tried it, you can see your massage seat functionality that includes, like, it looks like 5 different types of massages with a few different intensities. Or just one intensity, but this is a really great feature. It works extremely well. It's one of the best massages that you're going to find in the industry, and my test car also has the Energizer Comfort feature, where if I turn this on, it'll run for up to 10 minutes. It plays music, it changes the climate control, it shows a little graphic, and it's designed to kind of create like a spa-like environment. It's not quite the same as the Lincoln Embrace feature or the Lincoln Rejuvenate function, but this is still definitely nice. This is part of that $81,000 or $8,000 interior plus package, and it's kind of a nice little gimmick to kind of show you that you could do this and relax a little bit while you're, for example, fast charging the vehicle. Now, looking at the rest of the display down here, you can see there's a big sturdy cover that's covered in piano black plastic. You can change this to wood if you'd like by not having the metal trim. Open that up, you can see you've got heated and cooled cup holders. You've got a wireless phone charging pad, 2 USB-C charging ports, and an actual power outlet there. And then you can see this is the control pad to control that display if you guys don't want to use the touchscreen. You have a volume knob here, your drive mode selectors here. You can go from 5 different modes, including a rock mode, obviously, and an individual mode. We'll try out the different drive modes later on. You also have some dedicated shortcut buttons here, including an EQ button that shows your range and charging and whatnot. You can adjust that. Of course, then this is your shortcut buttons to activate some of the features in this vehicle. I don't love the piano black here again, but you can see there's nice padded leather. Open that up, you can see that center console storage is actually surprisingly decent, considering the rest of the storage in this vehicle isn't all that great. I mentioned earlier the seats are very comfortable and supportive. They're great on longer trips, and leather also covers the glove box. It's damped and it's lined with felt. Pretty decent size. I also love the chunky grab handle in here. Everything has really tight build quality as well, which is really nice. The windshield is very upright, which collects bugs, and you can see there's an auto dimming rearview mirror. A digital camera rearview mirror is not available. It would be a nice touch considering the spare tire kind of blocks your view there. I love the Alcantara material on the headliner, and you also have leather covered grab handles, which is kind of unexpected, but considering the $8,000 that you pay for this plus package, you better expect some nice features. You can see there's just a standard sunroof, which has a retractable shade that's manual. This also opens up to vent air via this little button. You can see that opens it up just basically the normal way, nothing super special. I kind of wish that Mercedes would have offered like a pano roof on this vehicle, but overall the interior is pretty much identical to the gas-powered G-Wagon. The only difference is there's no actual V8 sounds. There's like a little sound that it plays when the vehicle is on, and you don't have your triple lockers. Instead, you have the little buttons there for low range and for your trail turn or your G-turn assist. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys what that space is like. Just like the front doors, this rear door has that amazing sound when you open and close it. And you can see when you get back here, the door panel materials have carried over. So real leather and leather here, real metal trim, nice leather down here. The seats are also heated, but not ventilated. There's a blank button there to get ventilated seats. And you can see this rear seat looks a little old school, especially with these headrests. These will literally dig into your back until you pull them up. And if you want to fold the seats, there's a little lever down here. You pull that, but what you'll notice is this actually won't fold down until you do a two-step process. So to fold the seat down, you actually have to pull on this strap here first, and then you can pull on this, and that will fold the seat down. Unfortunately, as you can see, there is a noticeable hump there. There's a noticeable ledge, so you can't actually get that fold flat or that flat rear seat cargo area. So that's kind of a sacrifice you have to make with the electric G-Wagon. I also noticed there's also no frickin' grab handle here. There really should have been, considering the step in to get in here. So you kind of have to hold on to the front seat to pull myself up here. But once I get back here, push that headrest up, you can see that's what it looks like when it's up, and it also will block your view even more. Has that same wonderful solid thunk when you shut the back door. No retractable peasant blockers or shades, but Mercedes says there's 39.5 inches of legroom back here. And I'm kind of saying where is that legroom space? Because it basically feels like 34 inches of legroom back here. It's pretty tight. The floor is not completely flat, but it's also relatively low. You do have your own third zone climate back here, along with your rear seat air vents, which is nice. And of course, Mercedes is now listening to me. I don't want to talk to you right now. Cancel.
Say that again, please.
Cancel. You can see down here you've got USB charging ports. You've got a 12-volt power outlet. Of course, you have two storage cubbies as well, which is a nice touch. And then if you want to fold this down, you get an armrest with two cup holders. You also get a little pass-through here. But thankfully, because this vehicle is a brick, you can see headroom space. There's a lot. There's like 6 inches of additional headroom clearance. That's a lot of headroom space, even though we've got the sunroof that takes up a little bit of space. The Alcantara comes back over here, of course, along with the leather stitching over the grab handles. There's metal speakers in the roof as well, along with LED map lighting, in addition to ambient LED lighting that you can't really see right now. But overall, the back seat is definitely not the roomiest, but it can fit average size adults. There's plenty of headroom, but for a car that Mercedes says has 39.5 inches of backseat legroom, I just don't see it. It feels more like 34 inches, so kind of keep that in mind if you plan to use this as a family vehicle. So Mercedes is essentially making history here by finally introducing an all-electric version of the G-Wagon. I mean, this has kind of been something that we've been anticipating for a few years, but the company had to make some big changes to the architecture to allow for a fully electric model. Now, we are starting off this review with nearly a full charge. We're at around 96% state of charge. It's showing around 242 miles of range. On a very full charge, at 100%, this vehicle was showing around 253 miles, which it's rated at 239, so it was nice. Now, Mercedes has another separate gauge display that shows a max of like 265 right now. I've seen that as high as 275, of course, depending on your usage, depending on if you're using the climate control, depending how you're driving, the computer will calculate that. But setting off in the electric G-Wagon, it's been around 6 years since I've had a chance to be behind the wheel of a G-Wagon. The last one that I drove, I was in Portland, I think, for the AVA event. It was a G63, and I fell in love with the car. I mean, Mercedes finally modernized this vehicle when they gave it a rack and pinion electric power steering. It has an independent front suspension. I mean, compared to the Ineos Grenadier that I just got out of a few weeks weeks ago, this feels like a night and day difference in terms of drivability. Now, it also still gives you that kind of old school tank-like feel. I mean, I'm sitting up so high. Look at the view of the road here is just commanding. You look over those little frog eyes on the front fenders, which is kind of cool. The hood is nice and low. You have this really square upright windshield, which looks really cool, but it also is annoying because it collects bugs like crazy. But overall, it's a relatively easy vehicle to drive. The steering in this vehicle is modern. It's quick, it's responsive enough. The vehicle has a very, very soft suspension. In fact, the adaptive dampers do a really good job at just soaking up the bumps on 20-inch wheels. The vehicle rides really nicely. I'm actually shocked how well it rides considering its body-on-frame suspension design. I will be curious to drive the AMG model though, because that has their active body control suspension that's unique to the AMG model. Every time you put your foot down, that noise what you're hearing is the G roar. You can turn that noise on or off and it creates a synthesized V8-like sound. I really like the sound. It's better than listening to the annoying wind noise you're gonna get because this vehicle is essentially a box on wheels. Now, Mercedes claims this model can get to 60 in 4.6 seconds. That's in between the 550 and the AMG model, but let's go ahead and see what we can get in our actual testing. We're in sport mode right now, and then we're just gonna brake torque it. There's no launch control. Oh, this thing lifts up like it's going to take off. 4.16 seconds there. 4.16 is around a half a second faster than what Benz claims, just under a half a second faster. And I'm not surprised that it's faster. This thing feels incredibly fast. I also love the sound. Remember, the transmission is unique. It's got that 2-speed automatic on each motor. Oh, listen to that. That is so funny. It sounds kind of like a V8 that also sounds like it's going to shift. Now, the other benefit about this vehicle having a big 116 kilowatt hour battery pack is it lines the floor and it lowers the center of gravity. Now, I wouldn't go and find your favorite back road and attack like a twisty like you would a sports sedan or a car-based SUV, but it feels more planted than the last G-Wagon that I tested. The steering is really good for something like this. You still get a feeling of like tippiness, top heaviness, but it's not as bad. Mostly every time you put your foot down, it has so much torque, so much power, the chassis gets a little unsettled. It just kind of wallows about. Oh, but every time you are turning the wheel, I can feel the electric motor limiting the power. It's almost like the computer is telling it, no, you're gonna crash, don't do that. This vehicle does have their full suite of driver assistance tech, obviously. Adaptive cruise control, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, all that stuff that you expect in today's modern age, which is, you know, something that, you know, you expect to find, especially considering the price point of this vehicle. I also love the seats in this car. They hold you in place really nicely. The leather is the upgraded leather from the Interior Plus package. That's $8,000 extra. This is like their manufacturer's signature upgraded leather, which feels nice. I'm sitting here getting a massage. The bolsters also, like kind of inflate and deflate depending on whenever you turn left or right. It's nice because it holds you in place even better. Let's try another run here. I just want to see if I can get a consistent pull. Oh, that never gets old. 4.19 seconds there, so that is fast. That is fast. I wouldn't be surprised to see the other versions of this car be around a half a second faster than what Mercedes claims. So let's just say if I can ever get an AMG version for a full week, I'd say that one is a sub 4-second car, while the inline 6, the 550, is probably a sub 5-second car, like around 4.9 seconds, something like that. But I mean, overall, this is still a really nice car to drive. It feels every bit like a G-Wagon, and I really appreciate the fact that it doesn't have that stupid brake pedal that will automatically move the position where it anticipates a regen brake would occur, like the other EQ models. Like, for example, you have up to a maximum recuperation, which is almost like a one-pedal drive. I'll actually see if it'll come to a stop. It doesn't actually come to a stop. It brings you down to around 8 miles an hour, and then you actually have to work the brake. Oh, man, this thing is so quick. Really takes your breath away, and it feels like you're basically lifting off because the vehicle is so softly sprung and has so much torque. The front end lifts every time you put your foot down, which is kind of the same thing as the AMG version of this car. But I'd be curious if Mercedes would consider doing an AMG model. I think there's room for an electric AMG that's kind of the ultimate G-Wagon. maybe like a sub 3.5-second car, which would absolutely be stupid, but it would be cool. And let's go ahead and talk about the range, because I mentioned earlier it had around 242 miles of range. I've seen it as high as 253. In my week's worth of testing in mostly ideal weather conditions, I got around 220 miles. 220 miles is decent considering it has, you know, a 239 mile EPA rated range, but at the same time, it's not great because this is not very efficient. It's a big box that kind of goes through, it's like a brick going through the air. So the efficiency MPGe numbers are atrocious, but at the same time, I'm happy that at least it is, you know, pretty decent in terms of real world range. I mean, obviously if you wanted to go take this vehicle on a road trip, it's not the fastest charging, the longest range vehicle, but for driving around town or driving this for a week's worth of, you know, daily driving, it has plenty of range. It's very comfortable. It's very, you know, tank light. The build quality feels amazing. There's not a single squeak and rattle in this interior, and the infotainment system finally has that modern look and feel with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. I like how it's their older screen instead of the ridiculous hyper screen or super screen that you find in other Mercedes models. And they finally added keyless access in this vehicle, so you no longer have to actually like unlock the vehicle with the door or with the key fob. Instead, you can just touch the door handle and it'll lock and unlock the car. So finally, some modern touches. It took a long time to get here, but this G-Wagon basically feels like the perfect middle ground. It has that old school charm that I love, but at the same time, it feels modern. It feels incredibly well made. It feels like it could withstand an apocalypse or withstand the test of time. And I can see exactly why so many people love the G-Wagon. But I do think that people need to give the electric version a chance because it has every bit the character that you get from the gas-powered model, along with some synthesized visceral sounds, but at the same time, it has the speed of the AMG with more of the price point of the G550.
So after spending a full week with the all-electric G580 with EQ technology, I have to say, guys, the name of this vehicle is not very good. I actually think Mercedes could have done a better name by just calling it the EQG, but they also are trying to move away from that EQ nomenclature from all their electric vehicles. And this is kind of where I think the company did it right with the G-Wagon, because this is the first electric Mercedes that feels every bit just like the gas model. It looks every bit like the gas model. It just happens to be electric. And for a vehicle as iconic as the G-Wagon, they had to get this right. As you guys saw, the driving dynamics are going to really surprise you because it has that big battery pack that lines the floor. This vehicle handles better. It rides really nicely, despite the fact that there's no adaptive air suspension. It just has a steel sprung suspension with adaptive dampers. It has a really smooth ride, probably the best ride quality that I've ever experienced in a vehicle that is a body-on-frame chassis. In terms of acceleration, we got 4.16 seconds, which is very, very quick for something that weighs this much, that has the aerodynamic efficiency of a brick. I imagine the AMG version is only going to be a smidge faster. The G550 should be around a second slower 0 to 60 wise, but I'll have to wait until I get one of those models for a full week to test because I'm hoping I can get a hold of either of them. They both got updates, of course, for this year. The interior also is very comfortable, easy to live with. It has finally the latest modern tech features, and it also has some pretty cool features like that tank turn assist, which sadly you can't actually use out on asphalt, but it's a great feature to kind of show off the capabilities and a little bit of gimmicks to scare your passengers when you find the right moment. The back seat space is certainly usable. It's the trunk where you have to make the sacrifice with the electric model because of the battery pack. It doesn't have quite as much space as the gas model, and it also doesn't even give you a flat floor when you fold down the seat, so that's something that you have to keep in mind. Although I suspect for those of you who can afford this vehicle, you probably have another car that you can use as, you know, the daily that, you know, requires that you have more space. This is still an excellent daily driver. Just keep in mind that you won't be able to put some of the bigger items that you might buy from Costco, for example. This vehicle's design I really love. I personally would skip this color, however, because it's $6,500 extra, but it's a very boring color, although it does look nice out in the sun, but I would get something much brighter, which leads me to, you know, the pricing and the availability of this car, because the G-Wagon's always been a really high demand car. In fact, every time a dealer a Mercedes dealer gets one of these vehicles, they're usually pre-sold or they're sold very quickly. However, there have been talks that the electric version have been sitting on dealer lots, and I suspect that's because a lot of G-Wagon buyers are just not interested in buying electric. They have the money to be able to spend on something like a burly V8 sound. The 6-cylinder version also isn't going to have the same noises that you expect a G-Wagon to have. But here's kind of where I'm going to talk to you guys about my experience with this car, because even though I'm probably not the stereotypical G-Wagon buyer, there is something purely interesting about this vehicle because of the quad electric motors, because of the fact that it has, you know, the instantaneous acceleration, yet it also feels like a tank. It feels old school. It also feels modern. It handles a little bit better than a gas-powered G-Wagon. And Mercedes also gives you all of this technology that has the same kind of speed as the AMG, but more for the price of a G550. Because if you're looking to buy one of these vehicles, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. In fact, Mercedes-Benz sold just under 11,000 units in the US last year, which may not sound like a lot, but we're talking about a vehicle that starts at $148,250 for the G550 with 4MATIC all-wheel drive. The G580, the electric version, starts around 13 grand higher at 161,500. The AMG model is another $25,000 on top of this price at around 186 grand. My test car here has a couple of expensive options like the paint. I would skip the paint for $6,500. It also has the Interior Plus package for $8,000. It also has the night package, the black painted grille, the spare tire on the back. With destination, you're looking at an as-tested price of around $182,000. So 182 grand is still cheaper than the AMG version. And also keep in mind the AMG model, most of the ones you're actually going to find are going to be well over $200,000 because the AMG models have even more options, even more expensive options. But I also would say that in my real world testing at around 220 miles of range, I suspect the AMG version will probably have the same range because it gets 11 miles to the gallon. It has a 26-gallon fuel tank. That's on premium gas. So in reality, you're getting AMG-like acceleration of the V8. You're getting the synthesized V8 noises, you're getting similar actual range, but you're also getting it at a significant discount, probably like a $20,000 to $30,000 price discount. So if you kind of look at it from that angle, it makes the G580 a little more tempting, but at the same time, I don't blame you for wanting the actual V8 model, but I'll be curious to see if Mercedes decides to do an AMG version that happens to be electric. I wouldn't be surprised to see that show up as the eventual top dog model as more people catch on and see just how good the electric G-Wagon actually is. Well, that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 G580 with EQ technology. It's still a really stupid name. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.